Welcome back. The adjournment was to ascertain that all documents as mentioned by the minister were received. It has been confirmed that this is the case and the documents have been duplicated. Since that these documents were confidential documents, members can only pursue on location. From the discussions thus far, it's evident that more time is needed. Therefore, we will have the time, all the members of parliament, to review the documents and look into the possibility. We will look into the possibility to have a technical briefing by the staff of the ministry. Following that, we will come back to this meeting to finalize this agenda point. We will, MP Irian, is this a proposal of ours? Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I heard you mention that we need more time, but I don't know what that was based on because I heard a lot of other MPs saying that they would like to continue. So I'd like to propose then maybe a vote on us continuing, at least going into the second round, and then maybe if you want to end there, but I know MPs want to speak. That's my proposal, to vote for the continuation of not to the second round.
I will adjourn for 2 minutes. Meeting adjourned. Welcome back once again. The minister indicated that she will return before the deadline of placing the signature on said agreement. At this moment, the proposal of order is to continue with the meeting with the second round, so not to adjourn. We will go over to the voting at this moment. Does anyone wish roll call? Does anyone wish to motivate their vote? MP Doran?
Good afternoon, colleagues. Good afternoon to the Honorable Minister and support staff, and a special good afternoon to the people of St. Martin. Madam Chair, I came here today to make a very important decision. And you can see that based on the pin that I'm wearing. I'm wearing the St. Martin flag. I'm saying that to say, for it all of a sudden to seem as if this is not a priority is quite worrisome to me, because we're not even getting an indication as to when this meeting will continue. It gives me even more questions because, as one of my colleagues alluded to earlier in the notifications, the documents were sent 2 days ago, and now new documents were received, and now we have to peruse through it within an hour. I believe, Madam Chair, we can adjourn now, come back later this evening, go till 4 in the morning if that is the case, but we have to make a decision for our people, because the people have been left in a limbo with a lot of statements being made. And my goal, my sole purpose here today is to get the truth of the matter and make a decision that will ultimately benefit the people of St. Martin, namely our policyholders. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Doran. Now it's MP De Wever. You can motivate.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. After getting the clarifications today, I feel as if the minister has done a really good job with the team of looking at how we could have reduced from the original contract, the original agreement that we had that is tied with interest rates, refinancing with the Netherlands. But what I'm not really secured on is the fact that after receiving these documents, they are quite thick, they're not easy. I need to feel secured in what I'm reading is giving me the comfort that I am seeking. And I've been seeking that from the first time we received this deal of bailout, I think. It's because from the first time I called it a bailout. But to push to agree on something now without having a complete understanding of what is there, I'm not comfortable with that. And that's what I want. That's what I want to say. So I cannot agree to proceed into the second round in order because of the fact that I personally lack the understanding which will tie in my country to an agreement and fees for the next 30 years. Thank you very much, Madam Chair Lady.
Thank you, MP De Wever. MP Irion, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also believe that when you announced the continuation, you said until further notice. I can't trust when the until further notice is. Matter of fact, this meeting actually, I called this meeting already in June. Never got a response from the Presidium or the Chair on the initial request of this meeting. And then a proposal from the Minister came weeks later. So I don't know when we're coming back. We have until October 9th. I don't know how much more. We have about 15 of us in here, 10 minutes each clarifications. We can't afford to wait until the last minute to say, oh, we have to sign today, we have to approve today. So I believe that we should continue, and we need more time for the voting. Yeah, maybe, right? But we have enough information. I have enough information today for me, and I have a lot more questions that I want to ask. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Irion. I now see MP Gumps. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. I also saw the documents very briefly in the hour adjournment that we had. And I do, well, even though I did not speak in this meeting, I do believe that a more technical deep dive of those documents is something that I think especially the newer MPs should have the courtesy of receiving. And since last year, many of my questions are still not actually answered in terms of the governance of this new structure, the new co, how we're going to make sure that we receive the best deal when it comes to selling them off as they become profitable, etc. This meeting in a CC was something that this faction requested since last year, September. We had it, then we had another one in November, and then the topic kind of went dead as we all went into campaign mode. So with that, I also don't want to rush towards a vote. I don't have no problem staying here. I don't have kids, however, in the interest of getting the deep dive on a technical level, I would prefer to, as we have suggested, adjourn and receive that, and then move forward with those additional information in hand to make the proper decision for the country and the entire country. Because at the end of the day, it is not about 3,000 policyholders. It is literally about everyone else, because we all have to carry this burden. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Gomes. I give the floor to MP La Cruz.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Madam Chair Lady, SG, Honorable Minister and your support staff, and my colleagues, those watching via social media. Madam Chair, I have more questions than before I read the documents, but I have a problem with us adjourning the meeting now, and there are other questions that don't even relate to what I saw. So adjourning will only extend another meeting again that the minister will have to leave, answer questions again. So I am somewhat confused about what is exactly the reason why we are adjourning the meeting, because the documents that came in this morning, actually late, right? We got a short opportunity to peruse the documents, but as is now, I have other questions, and I think that is only just because these questions were from the first round, or the way the minister answered the questions that were asked in the first round. So prolonging the meeting for another time again is actually a waste of time, and I do have children to tend to. Thank you.
Thank you, MP La Cruz. I now give the floor to MP Westcott Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady, and a good afternoon. Madam Chair Lady, just for us to be clear, especially towards the public, the discussion that we're having right now is about your proposal to adjourn the meeting and subsequently a proposal of order not to adjourn. Fact is, and the more I hear the arguments not to adjourn, the more convinced I am that we should adjourn. And the reason for this being, we need to realize that we are in a public meeting of Parliament, meaning that if we were to use the opportunity now to ask the questions that we have right now, we don't have the opportunity to ask any more questions resulting from the explanation that we want. You have tried as chair, the minister and her support staff has tried as much as they could to assist members of Parliament in understanding the documents that are confidential. But we are not, most members of Parliament are not where we feel we should be, including myself, in terms of that documentation, to feel now that we can ask the questions resulting from those that documentation. So, Madam Chair Lady, it's important again to establish what we are, where we are in this public meeting, one. And secondly, and maybe more importantly, is the fact that while you have not yet finished your proposal regarding when this meeting could possibly continue, fact is that the Presidium, including yourself of this Parliament, is quite cognizant of the fact that we need to have a decision. In other words, continue with this meeting before the deadline, as stressed upon over and over by the minister. Taking that into consideration, I believe we do have the time to use a phrase of my colleague, to do a deep dive into the documentation that has been presented during the last couple of days, especially. Thank you, Madam Chair Lady.
Thank you, MP Westcott Williams. I now give the floor to MP Otley. You have the floor.
Madam Chair, good day to you. I think the issue came about where you say until further notice. When I listened to some of my colleagues, even those that want the meeting to continue, the fact of the meeting being adjourned is not the issue, as long as we are able to come back today to make a decision. I find it very, or to continue, I find it very ironic that when the minister mentioned the documents, every member of parliament was going about their day normally until MP La Cruz requested an adjournment to read such documents. While the documents were in there, very few MPs gathered in the room to even get an understanding. If we are adjourning the meeting for what it is said, for a proper basis and an explanation from the technical team, then so be it. But for what I'm gathering, when I listen to the coalition and I hear two members speak and they're on the edge, I hope that this adjournment is not a stunt so that political support can be gathered. That is what I am afraid of. So, Madam Chair, I will not jump the gun. You did say until further notice. I'll wait and hear when is this further notice.
Thank you, MP Otley. Before I give the floor to MP York, I would like to give some clarity on that date. I understood from the minister that the minister will be able to return on October 7th, and that's before the deadline of signing of the agreement. So just to provide that clarity, I now give the floor to MP York. MP York, you have the floor.
Yes, good afternoon once again, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I listened to everyone speak before me, and I would assume, and I could understand that those at home would think that the problem is either not having time to have a proper deep dive, not having time to come to a proper vote, or a proper decision to be able to vote. But the real problem is what I stated earlier, and people could try to go around it. The real problem is the communication between government, that side of the table, and this side of the table. Because, again, the documents were sent 2 days ago, and these confidential documents, one of them was there since July. But yet, we act like it only came in today. I understand it's 5 documents, but it comes down to the same thing at the end of the day, communication between the government and Parliament. So I don't know if, I'm new to this, so I don't know if this is a customary thing to where you keep something in your back pocket just in case you need to use it. But if these things, these proper steps are taken from day one, where as soon as you get a document, if we need to see it, it's sent to us directly, we won't be in a situation to where we have to play, yes, we need to go, yes, we need to stay to begin with. So I come back to what I said earlier. It's about transparency, and it goes for both ways, because now we're not wasting our time, we're wasting the people's time. Because if we come back at the 7th of October, if we still have questions, we are then forced to make a decision because we don't have any more time left, because the deadline is the 9th. Okay? So I understand everyone's point of view, from those who need to take a deep dive to those who want to answer, continue and answer the questions today. But let's not gloss over the fact of the main problem here, and that's communication, timely communication between the government and Parliament. We cannot hold anybody accountable. We cannot ask any questions, not come to any decisions if we don't get documents on time. Thank you.
I would also like to motivate. Although the documents were provided for review, I, with my legal mind, didn't get no chance to review the documents as yet, because when I entered, the room was full, and then it was time to start again. So unfortunately, I would also like to have time to review those documents. That's it for now. Number 4. I once more repeat the proposal is that we continue the meeting and we will not adjourn. Oh.
MP Melissa Gums.
Against.
MP Artwell Irian. MP Viren Kotai. MP Francisco La Cruz.
For.
MP Lyndon Lewis.
Against.
MP Franklin Myers.
Against.
MP Omar Otley. MP Ludmila De Weaver.
Against.
MP Sarah Westcott Williams.
Against.
MP Darrell York.
Against.
MP Richnel Brug.
Against.
MP Egbert Doran. Vice Chair Lady Shamira Roosberg.
Against. So there were 13 votes cast, four votes for, and 9 against. So the proposal has not been passed. I will now make use of the time to adjourn the meeting so that the minister can take her leave. Sorry? I just want to clarify that I'm not adjourning the meeting, but the agenda point. Huh? Meeting adjourned. Yeah, meeting adjourned, right?
Members of Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, and welcome back to the continuation of this meeting as we adjourned following agenda point number 2, not only to continue with the meeting, but also to reconvene at some time in the future for agenda point number 2, which dealt with and continues to deal with the headline agreement and the proposal by the Minister for an addendum relating to ENNIA. But now we continue this meeting and we go over to agenda point number 3, and that is the ratification of the decision list of the Interparliamentary Kingdom Consultation, the so-called IPCO, which was held from June 7th through 10th, 2024 in The Hague. This document is registered on the IS 798 of the parliamentary year 2023-2024, and it is dated June 11th. A brief explanation on this agenda point is the following. The recently held Interparliamentary Kingdom Consultation, the so-called IPCO, was held from, as I mentioned, June 7th through 10th of this year in The Hague. And during this 3 days event, members of parliament from within the kingdom participated in presentations and held discussions on the following topics: recent developments per country, poverty reduction, the good and bad that students face in the Netherlands and upon return to the islands and the countries, crime, corruption, undermining, safety, interrelationship between the underworld and the upper world, and cooperation within the kingdom aimed at combating the democratic deficit, availability and access to EU funds for the Caribbean parts of the kingdom, and the to-be-established National Slavery Museum. The delegations also visited Amsterdam North in relations to poverty alleviation and community building. At the end of the deliberations, an agreement list was drafted and signed by all delegation leaders. Parliament received the decision list of the Interparliamentary Kingdom Consultations on June 11th. This document, as I mentioned, is registered as incoming document IS 798. And of course, members have received a copy of this agreement list. The Committee of Kingdom Affairs and Interparliamentary Relations held a debriefing on June 18th of this year, during which the chairperson of the committee and the members elaborated on the work visit to the Netherlands. It is important to note that Parliament also received a report from this delegation regarding their work visit to the Netherlands for the tripartite and IPCO meetings, and also other visits the delegations made while in the Netherlands. This document is registered on the IS 850, dated June the 25th. I ask if there are any comments or proposals on the IPCO decision list as presented. Of course, this being the continuation of a public meeting, an indication to speak on the topic would have to be noted on the speakers list. At this point, I don't see any persons or MPs rather wanting to make use of this possibility. So that would mean if we don't have any speakers, we don't have the need for a first round or a second round. And without any comments from members of parliament having taken note of this document, I want to thank the members of parliament, and we have with this come to the end of the deliberations on this advice. And according to Article 57, in order to get a decision on this document, we would have to go over to voting on this document. And of course, the question is whether any member requests voting by roll call or so-called hoofdelijke stemming. Is there the need for such? I don't get that from any member of parliament. And that would mean that then the decision list of the recently held IPCO deliberations and decisions is hereby accepted unanimously. Ladies and gentlemen, members of parliament, we have come to the end of this agenda point. As mentioned earlier, agenda point number 2 of this meeting has been adjourned. And before we close this public meeting or close this agenda point, it's important to note that the decision list, as agreed to by Parliament just a few seconds ago, will be forwarded to the government, and they will be requested to, as usual, respond to the agreement list. Just for the public's consumption, of course, this is an agreement between the parliaments of the kingdom. However, as the members of parliament would have noted, many of the issues agreed to by the parliaments regard the governments. And as such, we will forward this decision list to the government of St. Martin. With that, I want to thank the members of parliament once again, and I will hereby adjourn this meeting for the continuation of agenda point number 2. Meeting adjourned.